Dynasty the king.
Monday Night Football giveth, and Monday Night Football taketh away. Over the last 3 Monday Night Footballs, going all the way back to last season, we've had a Damar Hamlin injury, which changed the entire landscape of the NFL. We tune in for the opener this year, Aaron Rodgers goes down. And then tonight, Davis, you're back in studio with us, the self-proclaimed Value King. So good to have you here. I'm joined, as always, by Dylan Egloff. But Davis, I want to go to you right away. So much happened in the Monday Night Football doubleheader. But Nick Chubb, one of the many stallions in your barn, they wouldn't even show the hit. His knee was that obliterated. I have not even seen what the injury actually looked like. How are you feeling as a Nick Chubb owner? Where were you? And how does it feel to lose just an absolute fantasy superstar like Nick Chubb on a key Monday Night Football matchup?
I want to preface this conversation with absolutely heartbroken for him as an individual and as a running back.
Totally.
It's just sad to see. But I need to say that on the forefront because then I'm going to sound super, like, in the grand scheme of things, I'm going to sound like an idiot because I'm going to be complaining about fantasy football. But I was heartbroken. I mean, I literally was sitting at dinner with my wife, granted, coming off the heels of Saquon Barkley, who's also on my team, and woke up with a pit in my stomach this morning. And then I'm sitting at dinner and hear from my wife, like, oh my gosh, he's getting carted off the field. And I look up and I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, wait, who is that? And the commentator literally said, oh, one of the best players in the NFL getting carted off. You hate to see it. I'm like, it's either Deshaun or it's Chubb. And I'm panicking. I see that it's Nick Chubb. And literally my entire mood is just drained. And my wife's trying to figure out what's going on. Heartbreaking. I mean, absolutely heartbreaking to see. I think that it personifies where the running back position is currently, where the landscape is going, is that you literally, no running back is safe in the trenches, in between the tackles at any moment. These guys are being put at risk, and these guys. So it sucks. For my team, it sucks. Now, silver lining, Jerome Ford comes in and looks great, a guy that I have on my team. So silver lining, but you're hoping that you can get 70% of what Chubb is, correct? So I just, Dylan.
You're so dramatic. You lose Chubb, and who are you going to put in for Chubb next week?
Probably Chris Olave or Derrick Henry.
Oh, yeah. So I don't want to hear the boo-hoo. Get out of here. I don't want to hear the boo. And who are you putting in for Saquon? I don't even care because I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to
Chris Olave or Derrick Henry.
I don't want to hear about it.
They're both going in.
Yeah, no, but I mean, look, okay, at the end of the day, it still is heartbreaking. And granted, thankfully, I traded for Chris Olave prior to the games on Sunday. I thankfully felt something like I need to go spend some excess on my team, whether it be young players or picks that I had. I had 4 seconds. So I'm glad that we're talking about this. Dylan, I traded 4 second-round picks in 2024, which is an esteemed class, as we've heard from you multiple times, along with Rashee Rice, Kendre Miller, and then Dalton Kincaid. And I got Chris Olave. Mind you, I sent that offer for like 6 different players, and they all got turned down. But finally, somebody said yes. So, Dylan, did I win that trade? Do you hate that trade? Is it because it's me? Like, just tell me how you feel.
Listen, face value, I think that's good value for the owner. However, in Yacht Club, I've said this multiple times. What do we enact in every single trade that we do with Davis? The Davis tax.
Davis tax.
I would not have done that trade because I want you to feel every trade that you make from here on out. Like, you shouldn't just be able to, let me just liquidate 4 seconds and some bench depth players. No. I want Jordan Addison, and I want all 4 of those seconds, and then I will give you Chris Olave. That is the Davis tax and fair value in the Yacht Club that I would want if I was going to give you Chris Olave. Josh, do you agree? And that is fair Davis tax price, right?
No, I mean, I've always felt like the Davis tax doesn't need to be officially a thing. I think it's one of those things where it's like,
you guys best friends.
No, I'm not. We're not. Listen, let me get my whole point out. You should be charging someone for a championship. If you feel a team is a piece away, you have more leverage than them because you can be patient. You're not chasing a championship. You should always be naturally incentivized to do what's best for your team. Part of what is doing best for your team is examining what the other person needs. And if that person is a piece away, it's like, hey, I'll give it to you, but it's got to cost you quite a bit because I'm not going to give you a championship for free. And Davis by no means has that because we have a lot of teams that can compete with him right now. But getting back to Monday night, if you guys thought I was going to let us get through talking about Monday Night Football, Dylan, you were on the show with me. I not only traded to get George Pickens back, I proposed. I said, this is a lifelong commitment. And you know what he did with that commitment? You know how he showed up and showed out for your boy? First of all, he started the game so slow. He wasn't getting any catchable targets, and it only took one. And he not only turned the game around, I had a parlay built around his receiving. It hit. George Pickens with his career high in yards, I believe his career high in targets as well. Pickett and Pickens seems like a connection that's going to pay out long-term for me. Dylan, you criticized that trade. How does it feel absolutely getting dunked on right like the immediate following show? I'll take your apology now.
No apology is coming. I don't want to let you down. I'll let you down easy. Since we're using this marriage analogy with you and George Pickens, last week you guys were consummated, for lack of a better term, right?
So weird.
You guys now are on what I would like to call the honeymoon, and there's this honeymoon phase, right, where everything's nice and sweet and everything's going well. Deontay Johnson's on the IR. They got he caught a sweet little slant, took it to the house. That honeymoon phase, you guys know what happens to that. We're all married. You get past that, right? You get past that, right? You get past the honeymoon phase. Marriage is great. You still love your marriage. But
yeah,
Dave, hi.
My wife and I never ever argue ever, right, baby?
We're never ever argue. You're going to get past the honeymoon phase, and George Pickens is no longer going to be as delightful as you like. So I'm not giving you apologies. He had that slant, that's great, but I just don't think that's that one game that I was referencing. When he has a spike game, trade him now for what you can get for him.
You're wrong. Your biggest criticism, and the biggest criticism on him coming into the season, was yards after the catch. You know what that 70-yard touchdown was? Yards after the catch. The ACL is completely healed. He's a weapon. And you saw it. After he took that to the house, Pickett started to trust him more and force the ball to him. But overall, it was a weird Monday Night Football game. I mean, there was all these strange fumbles. I mean, it was very entertaining. But I remember there was that fourth down try where it looked like Deshaun Watson converted. It took them 10 minutes to figure out that it was a fumble and that it was the Steelers' ball. Really, really strange. But before we leave it, Davis, Deshaun Watson was one of the biggest fantasy question marks coming into the year. He played a great Steelers defense tonight. Certainly not an easy challenge. But through 2 games, is it safe to say Deshaun Watson is probably not going to return to the form that he had prior to being on the Cleveland Browns?
I don't think it's safe to say that. I think he's still getting his feet under him. Look, he has not settled in. I think it's apparent that he has not settled into playing quarterback in the NFL currently. But I don't think it's safe to say that he's never going to return to shape. I would give it maybe 2 more weeks. But if in 2 weeks we're then going to be looking at him and he still is a QB2 for you in your lineup, then I'd start to get a little worried and a little bit concerned. You start to see a little bit of an edge come out of him today. I'm pretty sure he should have been kicked out of the game because he touched an official. But that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he also that also happened. Yeah,
that also happened. So that might have been the highlight of the game. But no, I'm not going to cancel him from my fantasy football teams. I'm not going to say he has no chance of returning to the Deshaun Watson of old. But at the same time, we need to start to see something soon, or else it might be time to hit the panic button.
Dylan, you had shares of Najee Harris in multiple leagues. We've played in multiple leagues together. Obviously, you don't have him in Yacht Club. I know you traded him away in a Dynasty league that you play in. Najee versus Jaylen Warren was kind of the last storyline that stuck out to me from a fantasy perspective. Jaylen Warren in the receiving game was electric. It seemed like he was providing the juice the Steelers needed to stay in and get back in the game. Do you think Najee was just also getting his feet under him and that time will tell? Or is it hit the panic button for Najee and you need to ship him out, much like you did in that other league?
I wouldn't panic about Najee just yet. As you saw the game go on, you saw Najee, he got better. He got more comfortable. It looked like he broke off a 10-yard run. Then right after that, he took it, reverse field, broke off another 10-plus yard run. So he looked good. I just worry about his efficiency. So if you're banking on an RB1 in Najee Harris, you're not getting that. But I would say that he's probably a safe RB2, and Jaylen Warren, he's going to get his as well. So I think they're going to eat into each other a lot like Tony Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott were. That's kind of how I see them matching up. Do you agree with that, Davis, or do you think Jaylen Warren actually takes over as a whole?
I don't see him taking over. But at the same time, historically with that team, they tend to and they like to go to having like a workhorse running back. So, I mean, if Jaylen Warren continues to outproduce and look like he has the juice, I mean, it could happen, but at the same time, I don't see that being, the outcome. We're only 2 years removed from them spending a first round pick on Najee Harris, who was an RB1 his first season.
Right.
But to your point, that's all volume based. We're not going to be seeing him get 25 touches a game. If we're expecting him to be efficient on his touches, yeah, you are selling yourself short. So I'm out on him being a top 15 RB this season, to be quite honest.
Yeah, I think the Zeke Pollard comparison is really solid. The other one that comes to mind actually is Austin Eckler with Melvin Gordon. If Jaylen Warren continues to look that electric, if the backfield does flip, I think Jaylen Warren is a back you need to pay attention to. Maybe start to go trade for now because if his price gets too high. Because if Najee does get injured, I would be interested to see what Jaylen Warren produces with a bell cow workload. Moving on to, I would say the lesser of the two Monday Night Football games, and we were talking about this pre-show. Guys, how do we feel about Monday night doubleheaders? I'm out, personally. I would vote no.
Oof. Hate it.
Yeah.
Hate it. You literally can't watch the games at the same exact time unless you have two different screens, but you can't focus and you can't have your attention. And I don't know why they picked these 4 teams to play tonight because it was terrible. I was
just about to say, I don't know. Like, I didn't know which game to choose because I was like, they're both bad.
They're both awful.
So I don't know which one to choose or prioritize.
I loved the Browns-Steelers game. It was entertaining, and that's a divisional matchup. But yeah, no.
Here's what I'll say though. I tried to turn to the Browns and Steelers game until I saw Chubb go down, and then that broke my heart because I was trying to stay away from my take that is not aging that well of Bryce Young throwing for 4,000 yards.
Yep. Fantasy receipts, if you're listening.
Seriously, when you realize how poor of targets that he has to throw to, when Adam Thielen is really playing old reliable, when you're expecting Hayden Hurst to be your second option because DJ Chark is terrible, not sold on Jonathan Mingo, because if he can't emerge in this wide receiver room, is he ever going to break out? I'm kind of trying to reel that take back in. I still love Bryce Young.
Yeah.
But
does he even break 2,500 yards?
Yes.
Okay. If they keep the same wide receiver room, you think so?
Yeah, I think he throws for about 3,200 yards this year.
3,200,
3,500. I think so. I think he'll start to get more comfortable in the offense, but you're seeing a quarterback that he's played in pretty scattered pockets before. I mean, he did not have the greatest line, especially last year. But you were dealing with collegiate defenders where you can, take your time and then find an open receiver, hit a dart. But now you're dealing with NFL pro corners and safeties where you think that they're not going to jump that and you're throwing picks or you're throwing incompletions or you're getting sacked. So yeah, he's not going to throw for 4,000. My hot take is probably dead at this point, and I'm heartbroken, to be quite frank with you.
It's been a night of heartbreak for you. Yeah, when you talk about his receiving core, there was a lot of hype around Jonathan Mingo. It's crazy to think how much the offseason versus in-season changes. Jonathan Mingo, we all liked, and he was really interesting name to bring up. He was non-existent on the field, but this was a guy going for still a first. I mean, at end of the first in the 23 draft, and people were considering trading a 25 first for him. I know I certainly was, but Adam Thielen looks like he is the only guy worth having as a pass catcher. Dylan, I know you traded for him. Is there any, and Hayden Hurst, is there any cheap options on Carolina that you're still excited about? Or are you with Davis where it's like, hey, I'm folding up shop and I'm moving on. There's not really much to see here with the Panthers pass catchers.
I mean, if you're a contender, I'm going to get Adam Thielen if I can for cheap because it looks like he's going to be the one that Bryce Young is going to be looking to. And also, I'm going to buy Jonathan Mingo. It's his second game in the NFL. I'm not out on him. Just like Bryce Young's getting used to the NFL, you can't say that about him and then not say the same thing about Jonathan Mingo.
I would patient with your rookies.
Be patient with your rookies, especially wide receivers. We're spoiled with the Jordan Addisons of the world. Like, I mean, QJ hasn't performed, JSN hasn't performed. Like, not everyone's going to pop up. I'm still buying. No, I'm not going to spend a first on Mingo right now because I don't think you have to, but I would still go try and acquire some Mingo on the cheap.
Another rookie to think about was Kendre Miller, who we were hoping was going to be the guy soaking up the absence of Alvin Kamara for the Saints. But instead, Tony Jones Jr., who I'm pretty sure even in leagues as deep as the Yacht Club might be on waivers, or most leagues he's still going to be on waivers. Are you still holding with Kendre Miller, or is there any chance that is that just a rookie you have to forget about for now, throw him on your taxi squad or at the end of your bench and move on? Because there's just not much to talk about in regards to the Saints offense right now.
Yeah, I do miss Kendre. I mean, I just got rid of him. This was the perfect game for like a rookie running back to come, has an injury, go down to a Jamal Williams, and for him to have a breakout game, for him to get his value to rise, because you're going to have another game without Kamara there. So then, in like a week 3 performance, you could be looking at an opportunity where he is the bell cow. But instead, because he's injured and he's dealt with a ton of injuries in this preseason, you have Tony Jones Jr. falling in the end zone twice. It's just disappointing if you have Kendre Miller, because this literally was a perfectly scripted game for him to have his breakout and for you to see the value of the shares of him skyrocket. But instead, you're dealing with, is he ever going to be healthy? Is he? And then by the time he probably is healthy, you're going to have Kamara back, and he's going to be dominating on the field. So I'm frustrated, Dylan.
Dynasty's so funny. Like we're like, oh, Tony Jones Jr. whatever. But had that been Kendre that fell into the end zone twice, my dude, Kendre is the new hotness, right? And I have Jamal Williams on our Yacht Club, on my Yacht Club team, and it was just brutal watching Tony Jones Jr. just fall into the end zone, and I'm missing points. So that was brutal.
No, I think back last year, a guy who I loved was Matt Corral, because I painted this narrative of Baker's not going to do well in Carolina. Well, check, that happened. I also then painted this narrative that Matt Corral is going to get a really strong opportunity with decent pass catchers around him. All of that narrative that I painted to happened, except Matt Corral got injured, and now he's nothing. He just got caught by the Patriots. And that is Dynasty football. You can be correct about the narrative of a team. You can see certain things coming, but you can't control the health of players, and that's super difficult. Dylan, a great narrative you saw coming was needing a third quarterback in trading for Derek Carr. But then Aaron Rodgers tears his ACL, and I'm just going to ask it, how much do you miss your 24 first right now? Because if Derek Carr is really your quarterback 2 on the year, how good do you feel about your chances?
For clarity, Aaron Rodgers tore his Achilles. Just saying.
Did I say Achilles?
Nope, said ACL, but we're all good.
Well, he might as well have lost a leg. Either way, Dylan, you don't have him rest of the year. You're relying on Derek Carr. It doesn't matter. Aaron Rodgers won't be seen, certainly in the fantasy playoffs. He might come around in the NFL playoffs. But how do you feel about Derek Carr and his performance?
Man, that was just bad. He gave me 6 points this week, 6.72. It just
God.
It's not looking good. It's not looking good for your boy. I'm not going to give up hope just yet. We're going to see how this goes.
Row the boat.
Yes, we're going to row the boat. But I mean, it wouldn't hurt to have my 24 first right now. But we're gonna still keep rocking with it. Derek Carr, he just looks like I don't know if he's getting settled in. I don't really know what it is. This has kind of been the Derek Carr we've gotten. So I don't know. We'll see. I'm hoping for better days, but we'll see.
Yeah. You can keep hoping. I love the dichotomy of the show of you being listen, you are the biggest flag waiver, not only for rookies in general, but for the 24 class. And for you to be the one telling us about who to look out for and you not having any shares of it, I want to see if maybe there's a blockbuster trade later on in the year. We're going to take a really quick break. And when we come back, all aboard or overboard. George Pickens already makes me feel like reacquiring players I love is a surefire strategy to greatness. And so without even knowing what Pickens' performance was going to be, Davis and I made a blockbuster trade on Sunday night. I reacquired a guy who I have absolutely beat the drum for. Justin Fields is back on my roster. The trade was Christian Watson and 225 firsts. One of them I assume is going to be pretty late. The other one is a wild card. So that was hard to give up. I'm not even going to let Davis talk about why he feel like he won the trade. We're going to let that go because all aboard or overboard, Justin Fields had another disappointing performance. Dylan has been the only one out of the three of us to hate on him all season, and through 2 weeks, he's been correct. Dylan, I want to pass to you. Justin Fields, is he going to finish as even a top 10 QB for the rest of the fantasy season? Just to give some context, he's finished as quarterback 16 in week 1 and quarterback 22 this last week.
Oh, God.
Absolutely. I am taking the biggest victory lap, and I know it's only week 2. But I told you this was going to happen. And what was the premise of my argument? It was not that Justin Fields is a bad quarterback. It's not that he doesn't know how to throw. It's not that he can't run. It's that they won't let him run. They won't scheme any runs for him, and his coaching staff is literally suffocating his value. Absolutely suffocating his value. And what happens to quarterbacks when they get suffocated? It's hard for them to breathe, and you get a Zach Wilson out of that. You just get quarterbacks that get Sam Darnold out of that, right? Baker Mayfield out of that. So, listen, top 10. You're telling me you can confidently say that you're buying a top 10 line right now today after what he's put on the first 2 games of the season, and those weren't even like great defenses that he played. So, there's absolutely no chance that I'm buying. I cannot believe, Josh. Cannot believe you sent 2 seconds and Christian Watson, or sorry, 2 firsts and Christian Watson. You stick to your strategy. You bought him for 225 first. You have a monopoly on the 25 class. Do you think that Justin Fields is going to be relevant by the time that you're ready to compete?
Absolutely. And I really want to get Davis's opinion on this. We have a dichotomy we're going to talk a little bit about later. Davis has been a little bit of a new man where he's like, he's not just dunking on people when he feels he made a trade that he won. He's like, I really hope this guy works out for you, which is like, we've never seen that. Davis, tell me why it was such good business for me and why it was great for my roster. Continue to sell me after the deal has already been closed.
I'm not going to do that.
It's a total betrayal. Total betrayal.
Welcome to the dark side. Welcome
to the dark side. I can't believe you did that deal. I would have settled for Christian Watson in 1 single first. So it's great to get 2 out of it. No, I mean, all seriousness, Fields is not a bad quarterback, but he is so in his head that he cannot process things live. It is unbelievable to watch. And I, prior to this past week, was trying to sell him for anything. I was going around trying to sell him high. Guys, it's just one bad week. But you could sense, one, I already have everything stacked against me because people hate dealing with me, which I should start to work on that. But then you see him come out, and one, he just had 1,000 yards on the ground last year. And they have it doesn't seem like they've designed any runs for him. He had 3 total rushes this past game, or 4. I don't know the exact one, but none of them were designed. They were all scrambles. So I agree. It's that from a fantasy, even just this year. I'm not even talking Dynasty. I know this is a Dynasty podcast, but we're talking all aboard or overboard. If he is a pocket passer, I don't know if he's QB 24. I mean, that's kind of a stretch. But that shows that if they're trying to make him a pocket passer, I'm extremely concerned on the outlook for his fantasy football finish this year, but also his dynasty value, because at some point, he had 4 rushes, but at some point, they're going to just bench him. At some point, the fans are going to be calling for who is their Division II backup that they signed that's now QB2.
Badgett.
They're going to be screaming for, let's just see what we have with him. But I do think, Josh, I mean, to kind of Dylan's question, in 2 years, is he still going to be relevant? I do think he will be. I think he'll be, if they're terrible this year and they go get one of the great quarterback prospects that they have in a Caleb Williams or a Drake May, he'll get traded to a team, and you just have to hope that it's a better situation where they're actually going to formulate a team around him and a system around him. But as of right now,
I cannot believe you guys thought this was going to change overnight, and I cannot believe that you think he's going to be. So you bought him basically at, let's call it, top 15 prices, right, Josh?
Oh, for sure, no question. My biggest regret. I want you to keep the ball here, Dylan, but Davis mentioned it. I was like, I probably shouldn't offer 2 firsts right now. I went to counter the trade I made, and Davis accepted it before I could even lower the price I had quoted him. So biggest regret I have, but continue, Dylan.
No, I was going to say, so you bought him at top 15 prices. You think he's going to be top 15 value in 2 years. That's basically what you're saying.
Yeah. Oh, no question.
You agree with that, Davis?
I don't know, dude. I'll be quite honest with you. I'll be quite honest with you. I was trying to get out at any price. And like I said, prior to
I could have bought lower. That's what I'm taking out. Is I could have made even more money out of this.
I was absolutely tilting, and people knew it, and they were putting screenshots of how bad Justin Fields looked inside the chat and were tanking his value. People were attacking me. It was a cyber attack on my value.
Oh, poor David.
Hey, and Josh bought him.
People sent tweets to me.
No, but I do want to give a little bit. So I almost sold him for 324 first. I was this close to selling him, and I actually had to get a little creative. So the people that have 24 first, they have 824 firsts. They don't really have any solidified quarterbacks. They have interest in Fields, but their main goal was to have the 101, right? So we were talking about their picks being like lottery picks. And I said, well, what if I can protect the pick, right? So we were talking back and forth.
Oh, gosh.
I was so close to getting the deal done. Protecting. So if I would have got the 101, they would have got it. I would have got the 102. And I was so close to getting into that draft class.
Were you going to draft like a contract?
I literally was going to write up a contract and sign it legally. Because then they asked me the question. They were like, well, can we even do this? And I said, yeah. I mean, you just got to trust me. And they're like, well, we don't. I'm like, all right, I'll write a contract.
That was smart.
So to give the listeners some context, we have a league contract. I think we've talked about it before, that details all the rules of our league and even says if there's something not covered in this contract, we have like a tribunal. There is nothing stopping two owners to coming to like a life pact agreement. The thing is, the commissioner will not enforce it. That's how in the weeds we get with this stuff, because people make like, it's not collusion. It's like, no, I'll do this trade for this. Like, we have rules on that too. So really, essentially, we also have a draft lottery. So you were trying to say, if you trade me one of these picks, and it ends up being the 101, I will trade it back to you, right? That was kind of what you described pre-show.
I will then trade you the 101 for the 102 and a compensatory third-round pick. And they were extremely interested, but that's what's tough about dealing with co-owners. You have to get both on board, and one was convinced and the other was not. And thankfully, they didn't do it because they would have been looking like complete idiots had they done it.
Well, I want to
not calling you an idiot, Josh.
No, listen, because you're both wrong, and I'm excited to tell you why. Listen, you did not have at all the gumption, the diamond hands required to handle a player like Justin Fields. You already made my argument. I didn't see any quarterback designed runs. Do you know what Justin Fields had in terms of rushing his first 2 weeks last year? 20 and 28 yards respectively. Regardless of attempts, the quarterback design runs didn't start out the season last year. And guess what? I think this year it was a point of emphasis for them as a team to develop him as a pocket passer, as more of a passer. Guess what? They've done that. Based on his career average, he averages 156 a game, 151.6 yards a game. That's been his career average. He's thrown for over 200 both weeks. I kind of feel like if Justin Fields were to walk on water, y'all would be the type to say he only does that because he can't swim. There's always something to point out that he did wrong. I believe the designed runs are coming because they're trying an offense to turn him into something he's not, and the rushing is going to return. I do believe they're going to pivot because they're completely pot committed to this guy. Their careers are pot committed to this guy. So I bought him at a dip. My only regret was not getting him cheaper. I am totally in on Justin Fields finishing as a top 10. Listen, Joe Burrow started off horrible for the year, and no one's panicking there. Trevor Lawrence was just non-existent this last week for fantasy. No one's panicking there. Justin Fields is under a microscope because we've had questions about him before. In terms of fantasy, he's going to return to the ground, and the points are going to come back. I am so confident in the purchase. I can't wait to flex when he goes off for 35 plus this next week.
You cannot mention Justin Fields in the same breath as Joe Burrow, Trevor Lawrence. There's no chance.
Trevor Lawrence, I can. Trevor Lawrence, I absolutely can.
No, you can't.
Absolutely
Trevor
can do
Lawrence
that.
has proven more in a single season than Justin Fields has. Absolutely. There's no question about that.
As a fantasy quarterback or an NFL quarterback? NFL quarterback, I would agree.
Both.
I don't think for fantasy. I don't think for fantasy at all.
I would
Justin
take
Fields
Trevor Lawrence over Justin Fields any day, so that's not even an argument. My rebuttal to your whole shtick about him being able to run the ball, that's fool's gold. Like, that is fool's gold, even if he does.
How is that fool's gold?
Because for the premise of this argument of you buying him for 2 firsts in our league, thinking that he'll be relevant in 2 years, winning matters in the NFL. He rushed for 1,000 yards, whatever. How many games did they win? They had
3.
The first overall pick. That is not
I see your point there.
And also, it's the coaching, bro. They literally ran a screen pass, the same play 3 times in a row. That led to that Justin Fields interception for the pick.
I'm glad you brought that up because and Chase Claypool had an offensive pass interference that moved them back. And then the interception was really just Claypool dropping it again. So listen, I I bought the dip, and I bought the dip maybe too high. That's the one criticism I'll take. I'm going to stick with Fields while the rest of the people run away. I'm buying that he's a top 10 fantasy QB. We could spend all day talking about Justin Fields because we love talking QBs. Someone we have probably not talked about enough is CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud, this is the line for all aboard and overboard. CJ Stroud will finish as a top 15 fantasy QB this season. Now, I want to unpack this for a second. Let me cook here, boys. People don't realize how difficult it is for rookie QBs to be fantasy relevant. Since 2000, first-round rookie quarterbacks have accounted for only 5 top 10 finishes and just 8 top 20 finishes. So since 2000, only 8 times has a rookie QB finished in the top 20. That's why finishing in the top 15, that would be a huge accomplishment for CJ Stroud. He threw for 384 and 2 touchdowns, had an electric week for fantasy. Davis, what were your thoughts on CJ Stroud? Perhaps the most, of all the rookie quarterbacks we've talked about, we've got an A-Rich lover, you're a Bryce Young lover, and I've just talked about Jordan Love. Has CJ Stroud been the one we've left out, and to our own, chagrin, so to speak?
He looks good, man. He looks really good. He looks comfortable in the pocket. And if he's getting the volume of 47 passing attempts in a game, then I'm all in on that, because that was, and I go back to when I was talking about defensive head coach in like a D'Amico Ryans. He's a rookie quarterback. They're probably going to try and like run the ball with a Dameon Pierce this year. That's why I was all in on Dameon Pierce. But their offensive line is not the greatest from like a running standpoint. And they're going to be down. So if they're going to be trusting him to throw 47 times a game, and he's throwing for 2 touchdowns, he's throwing for 384 yards, which, mind you, is significant. It's funny. I saw the stat of he's had 2 starts and he's thrown for over 300 yards, where Justin Fields has started 22 games and has not thrown over 300 yards once. So just a little concerning. No, that is extremely optimistic, especially for his dynasty standpoint, because it shows that they trust him. But I'm overboard on a top 15 season. I don't think that the volume is going to stay there the entire season. I do think game script will permit him and them as a team to be playing from behind. But I just think a QB 15 mark is going to be tough for a guy that's on the Texans. I don't know, Dylan. What are your thoughts?
I think because of QB play, I'm buying it to stay. I'm buying the 15 line because, the first game, 44 attempts. The second game, 47 attempts. Like you said, like they're going to be behind. And it looks like they're going to let their rookie quarterback get used to the NFL. If they're going to be throwing the ball that much, we saw Dameon Pierce, like you said, their offensive line is hot garbage. There's no chance that they're going to get any running game started or going, and they're not going to be able to because they're going to be down in every game. So I don't see him, honestly. He will probably average around 30 to 35 attempts a game, and that's actually on the low end. He could average closer to 40 with what he's doing now. So I think with that volume, and if he continues to increase those touchdowns, which I think he will, the first week we didn't see any, in the second, or this week he threw 2 touchdowns. And guys, he doesn't have any interceptions yet. So he's slinging it out and he's being smart with the ball, right? And he doesn't have the best weapons. We're talking about Nico Collins, Tank Dell, the corpse of Robert Woods. Who's their tight end right now? It's not Brevin Jordan.
Dalton Schultz was the guy.
That's right. Dalton Schultz.
That's right.
That's right. Yeah, I had a brain fart. But anyways, again, he's throwing to nobody. So if he's doing that with these guys, not nobody's because Nico Collins showed out. But I'm buying the top 15 line. Josh, where are you at with CJ Stroud?
No, listen, I think it's incredibly impressive, and I just want this to be on the show so people know. I said in the draft that he was the best NFL prospect, right? You guys remember that, me saying, waving the flag for CJ Stroud. He was the quarterback I felt safest with. So I'm going to take a mini cowardly victory lap on someone I didn't endorse nearly enough on the show. I don't buy the top 15 line simply because of touchdowns. If you look at his touchdown percentage, I think it's 4.3%. You see he's throwing 40 passes a game. And I do agree, Dylan. Nico Collins had a great game. He was 7 catches for 146 yards. Someone you bought for a second earlier on in the season because you saw this potentially playing out. I've been more on the Tank Dell side, but either way, when those guys have a good game, it's like, oh, wow, that's really surprising. We're not expecting much from those types of weapons. So I'm out because I don't see the touchdowns being there, but I think it's super encouraging. And it, most importantly for him and for the Texans, it makes the Texans an attractive location for free agents. And I think that's a huge way you build around rookie QBs is the free agent market, specifically pass catchers. So if I'm a receiver next year who wants to go, make a big bag of money, I'm going to consider Houston because I know there's a quarterback who can support my production and I can take him to the next level and vice versa. But CJ Stroud, it's just going to be tough. The only quarterback who I think could do it was on the opposite side of the ball, which was Anthony Richardson, who before his concussion, Dylan, Anthony Richardson looking like he's got a coach that certainly knows what he's doing. I will say this, if I could make a trade, if I could trade Eberflus for Shane Steichen, I promise you Justin Fields will go up in value.
I can guarantee you a lot of people would. I'm going to go ahead and take another victory lap. I'm running a mile out here in victory laps. Just victory laps, victory laps. I'm literally getting my cardio in because Anthony Richardson looked phenomenal. Now, the one thing I will say is he's got to learn to protect himself. The knee the first week, it's been minor. I mean, concussion's not minor, but hopefully he'll be back this week, if not for sure the following week. And hopefully he can not do that again. But I mean, he's a 6'4", 245-pound man going airborne and landing. Of course, he's going to whiplash and hit his head. But no, so A-Rich, he looked phenomenal. I think of the quarterbacks, if he's healthy, will definitely finish. If the line was top 15 for him, I'm buying that easily. I think he could finish top 10 at the pace that he was going. I mean, he had 17 fantasy points in the first half, and that was just with 2 rushing or touchdowns. He didn't even have anything really through the air going a whole lot. So
even like the first quarter,
exactly,
he was electric.
Yeah, I think going to your point, Josh, I read something on Twitter that was like, if Jalen Hurts and Justin Fields, Jalen Hurts and Justin Fields had switched places, and he was drafted by the Eagles and Jalen Hurts was drafted by the Chicago Bears, do we think that their trajectories would be swapped, meaning Justin Fields would be in a better position? I think so. Completely. Because it's coaching. It's coaching. It goes down to coaching. Steichen is a quarterback whisperer. He did it with Justin Herbert, right? And then we saw a little trickle off of Justin Herbert whenever Steichen left. He did it with Hurts. We saw Hurts. It's only 2 games. I'm not going to say he's played bad, but
he's fine.
That offense did not look the same. You can't say it looked the same.
He didn't look as good. I will say that. Jalen Hurts started a little bit slower, and it still looked clunky. Yeah.
And there's a reason why Steichen, with an Anthony Richardson, who was said on the show by Davis Noemi, the Value King, that he was a raw passer, looks better than Justin Fields as a passer. Looks about like Jalen Hurts did his second year as a passer. So I'm just saying, coaching means a lot. I'm taking my victory lap. Steichen's coming with me.
Coaching does mean a lot. And I do agree with you, and I acknowledge that you should be running this mile. You absolutely should be running this mile because situation does matter, as we're seeing. They are putting A-Rich in perfect situations for him to succeed. They're not forcing him to – and the one time in the past 2 weeks that they forced him to actually make a read, he threw a pick. But hopefully they don't continue to put him in situations where he actually has to make reads.
And that is so unverifiable. That is Davis's opinion. That's great.
Yeah, no. It's David's opinion, not Davis. Here's what I'll say. I think that A-Rich is going to, by the end of the season, I'm going to join the bandwagon with Dylan. I think he's going to be a top 5 Dynasty QB by the end of season. I think if he stays healthy, the fantasy production that you're going to see from him, he's going to win me $100, Josh, with the bet that I have with you. He's going to outperform Jordan Love because
I don't know, man.
Regression is going to happen. We're not even going to get into it because
we don't have to. We don't have to. We don't have to.
No.
It's fine.
But
it's totally fine. I'm winning.
A-Rich is going to be what we wish Justin Fields was. A-Rich is going to be an efficient runner who is going to be scoring a ton of touchdowns on the ground, but is also going to capitalize through the air because he does have a rocket of an arm. And he has a coaching staff that is literally has tailored and created a system that is optimal to who he is as a quarterback. I mean, just the play calling is masterful. It is beautiful to see all of the false motions that they have going to then go into a quarterback counter. Like, when is the last time you've seen a quarterback counter? And literally, A-Rich takes a quarterback counter for 25 yards for a touchdown. He's going to be a Dynasty QB5 in I think, by the season's end.
You see, we did it again. We were supposed to be talking about CJ Stroud, and Anthony Richardson takes the spotlight with the worst. He's just great. So good. The upside is alluring. Dylan, you've been taking victory laps all show. Davis and I, we don't owe you an apology. We were just bringing you down to earth. Raheem Mostert is someone you said you should go trade a second for. Raheem Mostert All aboard Overboard, a top 10 RB the rest of the year. He's finished as the RB 17 in week 1. Modest, good, found the end zone. And then he was the RB3 this last week. And mind you, he was only the RB3 by, I think, 0.7 points. Brian Robinson beat him by like 7 yards or like the 2-point conversion. Raheem Mostert went off. And he was someone you were waving the flag 4 weeks ago, and Davis and I were rolling our eyes. How good does it feel to be correct on Raheem Mostert, but him not be on your roster in Yacht Club?
You mean RB5, Raheem Mostert? RB5 right now? I know we're 2 weeks in. He's RB5. Yeah, he is RB5 on the season. And the top 10, it's a little bit of a stretch. I think he could finish as an RB1, though. Absolutely. And buying him for a second, I will go to the manager. If I had a second, I would go to the manager who has right now and go and buy him.
You think he could finish as an RB1, but you won't take top 10? Show some courage.
Yeah,
Show some courage and plant a flag.
Fine. I'll put my money where my mouth is. You know what? This is David. David's provoking me right now. David is provoking me right now. And you know what? I'm going to double down. I'll take top 10. Sure. At the pace that he's going, if he continues to average, I mean, he had 12 points last game. He had 27 points this game. That offense is loaded. And Raheem Mostert, he looks good. If he can stay healthy, because we know that's his biggest issue, staying healthy. Even if you were listening to the broadcast on Sunday night, they were talking about what Raheem Mostert said, and Raheem Mostert said, I didn't play for like the first 3 or 4 seasons. Like, he didn't play the 3 or 4 seasons he was in the NFL. He was kind of just bouncing from team to team to team, finally fit in with the 49ers, and then took off. So he's like, I've got fresh legs. I'm 29, or I think he's 31.
No, he's 31, but he said, I feel 25.
Like a 25. Yeah. So
yeah,
if he can stay healthy and this offense continues to click like that, absolutely I'm buying the top 10. Top 10 running back. Go buy him for a second.
It's interesting to say, if he just stays healthy, that's the war of attrition, because we lose Nick Chubb tonight. Nick Chubb was certainly going to be a top 10 running back on the year. So maybe if he can just stay alive, that'll win him the prize. Davis, where are you at? Do you buy Raheem Mostert finishing as a top 10 RB for the rest of the year?
No. And I literally have a very simple statement. Jeff Wilson Jr. He's going to come off IR, and you're going to have somebody who's going to be taking – wait, Dylan, Mike McDaniel loves himself some Jeff Wilson, and he also does love himself some Raheem Mostert. Mm-hmm. And at some point, you have to figure that a guy that they took with a day 2 pick, that they're going to try and get Devon Achane involved. And then they're also going to have to be feeding Tyreek Hill and Jaylen Waddle. So at some point, we have to take into account that you're expecting a top 10 RB. You just must think that he's going to be extremely efficient and score a ton of touchdowns if you're giving him that mark, because I don't think the volume stays the same when you bring Jeff Wilson back.
I do think he'll be efficient, because that offense is built for efficiency. Every single player on that offense is efficient because they just take it to the house. He averaged 6.5 yards, actually over 6.5 yards a carry last game. And I get that's an outlier. I'm not expecting him to average 7 yards a game. But I don't think Devon Achane is going to be a factor. Jeff Wilson, sure, I think he could cut into it, but I'm not doubting Raheem Mostert's efficiency. But I will say, will you guys buy him for a second?
Yeah, I mean, if the Raheem Mostert owner is going to take that,
3.
Yeah, I'm just saying there's probably no one. If you have Mostert, you're playing with house money right now. It's not worth getting him rid of a second right now. So after this last game, unless there's an injury or Jeff Wilson comes back and the carry count is really split up, I don't see his value being worth getting rid of him for a second right now. Because after finishing as the RB3 on the week and really could have been the RB1, I wouldn't get rid of him. Heck, I'm tanking for 25. If I had him, I would be like, he's in my lineup every week until I see multiple seconds or a first. That being said, I know that's an egregious, that's a crazy price. Probably no one would come correct with that. The point is, I would use his performance to try to sell him high. I'm overboard on this line. I agree that Jeff Wilson is going to come back. I will say this. I think Raheem Mostert can. He totally can finish as a top 10 RB. I just think there's too many factors going against him for him to maintain this pace. I think it's nice to see.
You got to remember, Saquon's now out. Chubb's out for the season. Like, there's RBs that are injured that makes it a little easier. It's like Geno Smith finishing as a top 5 QB last year. A lot of that was because of Lamar Jackson's injury.
Who wasn't there? Yeah.
Yeah, and then Justin
I get that.
Underperforming.
That was the debate in my mind. I think he could, but guys like Jahmyr Gibbs, I expect to step up. There's going to be other rookie running backs later on in the year that I think, we don't know even who they are, but there's always a waiver wire warrior. Kyron Williams is someone that easily I could think beat out Raheem Mostert the rest of the year. He was on no one's radar. So it really comes down to Jeff Wilson Jr. coming back. And like you said, Davis, there's a lot of mouths to feed in that Miami offense. We're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to come back with Below Deck, keeping you up to date with all the best drama coming from the Yacht Club. Part of the value we try to bring to you as the listener is constantly make you feel like you're in the passenger seat, or better yet, the gunner seat in the cockpit as we try to fly our planes to victory each and every year, because it's a dogfight in Yacht Club. Every single owner is dialed in. We talk about it all the time. Most recently, there's been two things that have happened. There's been an influx of co-owners because people were trying to step their game up. They wanted two minds to go up against some of the single minds of this league. One of those co-owners has nicknamed Davis, I think Dylan and I already talked about it on last show, David, as a way of just trying to get under his skin, as a way of getting in his head and to combat Davis's onslaught of propaganda for his team. Davis, you've embraced the Davis versus David model just a little bit. You've kind of got like a nice guy that you'll do with certain people you're trying to build a relationship with. And then when you need to dunk on people and remind them how much better you are than them, you will certainly try to do that at every turn. When you and I got our trade done, was I dealing with Davis or was I dealing with David?
I'll be honest, I did not sweet talk you at all. You were dealing with David. You were dealing with a guy that was desperate and was willing to go to any length and any measure to get a deal done. And you succumbed to the pressure that I put on.
I succumbed to the pressure. I think you accepted my counter, sir. I should have pressed you more, but that's separate.
You didn't even make me work for it. I sent an offer.
Don't worry. I will next time. Duly noted.
Josh, do you understand why there's a David tax now? It's no longer the David tax. That is.
I don't know if I can overcome that.
You're not overcoming the David tax.
No, so the thing about it is, David is it really is like if we had like a devil on my left shoulder and then we had an angel on the right. It's I'm trying to be a good guy and then I get triggered and then David comes out. You know what I mean? And then David just wants to remind everybody like, no, I have this tank of a team. And then Davis is like, wait, no, because then they won't trade with you if you don't be nice to them. So it's just I'm constantly, and I've said this before, I'm not only playing chess with everybody else, but I'm playing checkers with myself in the Yacht Club. So it's literally I'm doing deals with other people and I'm having to coerce them. I'm having to like negotiate, but then I'm also having to talk myself off a ledge. I'm having to reason with myself. So it's like I'm playing different games simultaneously. It's like, who do I deal with at the moment?
You are incredible.
And then
you are incredible. You literally, how do you do this? You're making us try to feel bad for you because you're working against yourself to manipulate others? What?
This is great news. The Dynasty Exchange is working on partnering with BetterHelp. We want to make sure Davis gets the counseling he needs. Actually, BetterHelp is not a sponsor, but if you want to sponsor us, we have
Davis
an owner
needs
who
it,
clearly needs it. He's got split personality as owner. He's playing multiple games with himself. I would swap rosters with him on certain Sundays, but I wouldn't want to have that going on in my head. Certainly not. Certainly not. Davis, tell me a little bit about, I've heard rumors of you attempting to get Puka Nucua, a guy you were absolutely Daviding on. You were dunking on him on the show. You're like, I think you said, oh, are we talking about Travis Fulgham? He showed up and showed out. And then Mike texted me. He's like, hey, make sure you mention on the show, there's been talks about Puka Nucua. Davis is coming after him. Is this where you have to play a little bit nice and be like, hey, maybe I was wrong. Puka's worth something. Or are you doubling down in those trade negotiations?
No, I think Mike is officially salty about how poor his team is in the Yacht Club. So Mike's officially iced me out of trades. And I would welcome him to come back onto the show, but he's officially iced me out. I've dunked on him too much, I think, in the public forum.
Mike's been missing for everyone. I was going to put him on a milk carton. He's been missing.
Yeah, so I simply sent him a 25 first for Puka Nucua, and he literally just put the thumbs down. He didn't respond, didn't shoot me a text back. And to me, in my opinion, a team that he's not competing, that is dumb. That I think is.
So this is David. This is a David moment right here.
No, and so I don't need to explain to you why and I have Puka Nucua in another league. I would take any first for Puka Nucua, any first in 24 or 25, not 26 because I don't want to deal with 26 yet, and because we don't even have access to trade that. But a Puka Nucua who And I'm trying to buy him because I'm dealing with some injuries, and you're seeing a guy that historically we have not seen somebody get targeted at this rate, especially as a rookie. He literally just set the mark for the most receptions for a rookie wide receiver at 21 receptions over 2 games. I mean, it is incredible. I will say that. But we do have to remember Cooper Kupp is coming back. He is coming back. I'm not saying that Puka is going to be obsolete. I think he could fill into like the Robert Woods role. But I don't. At this moment, a smart dynasty player would trade Puka Nucua for any first. Travis Fulgham might be a crazy comment to say, or I might look like a genius next year. But one way or another, it's going to be a take. It's going to be a take. And it's going to be hot. It's going to be spicy.
The Value King branding it.
The Value King gives you takes. But seriously, if you can get a first for Puka Nucua, I am doing that. Unless you're trying to buy him, and I tried trading a first for him, a 25 first, because I'm a contender who's trying to buy points for the next couple weeks. And on the off chance that he continues to have historic targets, even with Cooper Kupp, then I'm going to look like a genius. But I don't think that's the case. I don't know. I didn't feel like that was a bad offer.
No, and listen, we're here to tell people the constant goings on of our league, because I think it helps. Everyone has their league group chat. Everyone has their own economy. Ours moves very fast, and player value moves really, really quickly. Puka Nucua has moved not only historically fast on the field, setting the receptions mark, but last we checked, we did a Puka Nucua price check, Dylan, last show. He was at wide receiver 33, 34 at the time of the show. Like he's all the way up to wide receiver 22. Last
idiotic.
I checked, it's
idiotic.
It's crazy. So
gosh.
The thing is, for us as players and for our league, we're constantly examining almost every owner. Well, we're not just going to buy the hype. What is he really worth? Dylan, for you, as we kind of close out here, it's been a tough break in the first 2 weeks of Yacht Club. You are, I would say, the owner fans can root for the most this season, because you have a chance to make the playoffs. You have a chance to maybe make a title push. I'm certainly just a narrator off in the distance. And Davis has, cast himself a little bit as the role of the villain, maybe an anti-hero, depending on who you talk to. How are you feeling with your roster as we kind of close out the show?
Oh, I want to touch on Puka Nucua because I just looked at Keep Trade Cut. Him and Cooper Kupp are back to back.
What? What's his value? What's his ranking?
Puka is wide receiver 22. Cooper Kupp is wide receiver 23. It is getting out of hand. That is crazy. That is just crazy. How? Yeah. If you can, That's insane.
Dynasty football is all reactionary because Joe Burrow is now QB5.
No. Keep Trade Cut is it's redraft. People don't think long term. They think in the moment, and that's what it's based off of, and that's why it fluctuates so much because it's crowdsourced. We're reactionary people. That is pretty much how I feel about my team. Very reactionary.
That was great. That was a great transition.
Very reactionary. I lost Aaron Rodgers, so that's a hit. We talked earlier about Derek Carr, so you know what? I'm reacting right now. We're 0-2, but we're fighting. We're fighting. It's just I'm gonna tell this to every manager out there. If you're 0-2, don't blow it up just yet. I know we preach about if you can go get first, whatever. Now, if you don't see because of injuries or your team just isn't good, then yes, tank. And if there's firsts available, go get them. In our league, there's not very many firsts available, so I might as well just try and go for it. It's just 0-2. Davis, the first year in the Yacht Club, second year, did you start off 0-4, right?
0-4, and then ended up winning 6 in a row while simultaneously trading away Tyreek Hill to get 3 firsts. Made the playoffs literally in the 6 hole or the 7 hole. No, 6 hole, and ended up making the championship game.
Yeah, so you're not done until you're done. Just play it smart, and if there's first available 24 class, go and get it.
So just remember, guys, if you are tilting, you are certainly not alone. If you're 0-2, you are also not alone. But if you're 2-0, continue to take victory laps, much like Dylan was attempting to do tonight. It's all about riding the highs and surviving the lows. This has been the Dynasty Exchange. We will be back Thursday, reacting live to the San Francisco versus Giants game. So please stay tuned. Check us out on socials. We look forward to engaging with you all over the place.